I've resigned. I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, or numbered. My life is my own. My life is my own. I will not be pushed or numbered. My life is numbered. My life is my own.
After watching this series, you'll know a great deal more about idealism and mysticism and what the founding principles or precepts of those philosophies are. You'll also see that materialism, as we know it right now, has been on life support. It's actually been that way for quite a while. Its proponents know this, but their job right now is to keep the lights burning and hand you all sorts of false concepts, pertaining to neuroscience and cosmology and physics that still maintain generally a materialist outlook. And we're going to be able to see through this series how utterly bankrupt it all is. But you'll be able to see through this window dressing. What I'm presenting here should allow you, it'll get the ball rolling and allow you to at least start thinking about philosophical matters. If you haven't already, taken a look at my mysticism article and some of the other work we've done on this subject, my Schelling book on Disciples of the Mysterium, these works should hope to start you investigating these very important matters, because as materialism sort of crumbles, the props have been pulled away from materialism, and the thing is it's already falling, it's ready to crash to the ground. So what are we going to put in its place, after its demise, after its end? We need to have put something philosophical in its place. And as far as I'm concerned, that will mean a return to idealism, or quasi-idealism, and even mysticism. So we'll have to know about what the great idealists have said. People like Hegel, people like Schelling and Steiner, Immanuel Kant, and others you may not have heard of, not familiar with people like Goethe and, say, Owen Barfield and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And people like that. There's so many we could mention, like Blake and George Berkeley and even Ralph Waldo Emerson, people like that have sort of fallen by the wayside. Some of them, like Barfield, are even could be described as forgotten geniuses, and that's not okay, because these people explained reality and explained the nature of the universe and of consciousness, way back when. And as I've always maintained in my work, we don't need to do really too many fixes, because the answers are already there. We just need to revisit them and re-employ them again. Now, as we go, this series will be schematized in this way, loosely. One or two of these categories may sort of alternate or change places, but generally we'll start with an introduction, move to the work of the Irish philosopher, idealist George Berkeley, take a look at William Blake, whose ideas are always relevant to mysticism and to idealism, then get into materialism, sort of a deeper look at the flaws of it and the limits of it, so that we have that really nailed, you see. We must look at a little bit of Immanuel Kant. His ideas pertain very deeply to the modern age and what's known as the Copernican revolution in philosophy. We look at the hemispheres of the brain, neuroscience. There's a lot of bearing in new discoveries in neuroscience that touch on what we're discussing here and looking into. We'll deal with the matter of empathy, which may be a slightly different perspective on that, on empathy, but it plays a huge role in what it means to be conscious. And then we'll conclude. And the appendix is there just in case down the line, after the series is over, I have pertinent things to add. Then we'll have a sort of a room for an appendix later on, which we'll make announcements, and you'll know that's you'll know what it is then when it's announced. But mostly the conclusion, we're going to try and touch on as much as we can. But remember, in all these kinds of activities, studies, and this kind of research, it's never ending. In one book or one presentation, it's not going to be conclusive. I just want to get a good start, so that, as I say, when you're encountering materialists and so on, you're going to be finding the process a lot easier to engage with these people. And that hopefully by the end, you'll be on your way to understanding reality, a lot clearer than maybe you do at this point. But we'll get things going by a quote from Charles Seeley that sort of encapsulates the general idea of idealism. He writes that idealism is based on the theory that mind or thought is primary and that matter, material, right, the materiality of the world is secondary. It holds that ideas are produced by the mind and are the only things that are known or can be known, and that matter is unreal and that cannot be known. So one could say a lot more about what idealism is, but that sort of encapsulates the basic points. But of course, immediately the detractors and the refuters are going to say, for goodness sake, that's nonsense. Before children are born, there's a world out there, a concrete world. And then even your ideas are about that world. So obviously if you have ideas about something, that thing must come first. Your thoughts, right, your mental furniture, the world in your head, comes because the world is external to you. And then your process of thinking arranges, right, or categorizes, conceptualizes, right? You perceive and then you conceive. But you're perceiving a world that's really physically there. So that's why idealism right from the off can sound very unusual, until you discover that a lot of what we know about the subject is really based on the misinterpretations of non-idealists. And that no idealist has ever said that the world isn't there. Not even the most sort of solipsistic of the lot. No one has said that they discount the world as being some sort of phantasmagoria or that it doesn't exist there in its nature. They're just talking about the process by which it gets there. And as I said, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to decide for yourself which of these perspectives is right. Does consciousness come first, or is the hard materiality, a certainty? This series is meant to hopefully make that process easier by giving you the salient facts about idealism. If the facts of idealism can be stated clearly and in an unbiased way, well then you'll have the facts in front of you and you'll be able to make your decision.